People across the country are rallying to stop next Wednesday's execution of Melissa Lucio in Texas. She's a mother of 14 convicted of capital murder in the death of her 2-year-old daughter nearly 15 years ago. But new evidence and expert testimony is casting some serious doubt about her guilt. Attorneys representing Lucio have said that her toddler, Mariah, fell down a flight of stairs and 2 days later took a nap and never woke up. During police interrogation right after Mariah's death, police accused Lucio of beating her daughter to death. And with prosecutors later saying the bruises on her daughter's body and an untreated broken arm was proof of abuse. But from the start, Lucio maintained her innocence, and now lawmakers on both sides of the aisle are calling for clemency. Morgan Chesky joins me now. Morgan, you know, we saw the family hold a press conference today praying for her with the case continuing to garner more and more attention. Talk about what makes this case so unique.
Yeah, Steph, I think if you look at the various points that comprise this now controversial case, it really presents one that are raising a lot of questions right now for people on both sides of the aisle. You go back to 2007, you have this tragic incident inside a home where that woman said her daughter fell down a flight of stairs. Then she passed away 2 days later. But what's interesting is after she was taken into custody and she was being questioned by authorities, that essentially her confession came after hours of being in a closed room with investigators who asked her questions, and then attorneys for her would say that she repeated their answers back to them, essentially that she was being prompted for a confession. And at one point, Steph, she was even handed a small doll and told to demonstrate to investigators how she harmed her child, which her attorneys say was not only inappropriate, but a coerced confession, if you will. On top of that, they say that one of the reasons that she was placed on death row is that she had to have been shown to be a continued danger to society. And she said, her attorneys rather say that the prosecution has misconstrued those facts in order to keep her where she is right now, with that scheduled execution date for April 27th. Steph?
All right, so that would be next Wednesday. And despite all these concerns, nothing's happened so far to halt that execution. Could we see anything change between now and then? I mean, technically, it could go to the 11th hour, couldn't it?
It absolutely could. I mean, and we're talking to the day of, to the hour of potentially here, Steph. But we know right now that there have been multiple people that have come out in support of Ms. Lucio, trying to make sure that she is not put to death on the 27th. And various people are asking for different things. Some are asking for a brand new trial, others asking for a clemency. We know that right now the Texas governor, Greg Abbott, could be the one who grants a 30-day stay in order for both sides to take a closer look at this. If he does not, then you have the Board of Pardon and Parole, who could grant clemency or decide to have a stay themselves and re-examine her case. But right now, there are a lot of options, but there has been no definitive action in order to put that execution on hold. Steph?
You know, Morgan, we're hearing from both Democrats and Republican lawmakers in Texas condemning this execution. I would imagine there aren't a lot of issues that bring those two groups together in Texas, including some people who are backers of the death penalty having concerns. Is there a shift going on right now in Texas when it comes to support for the death penalty?
You know, when you look at the way both sides have come together on this issue, Steph, you could certainly say so. Real quickly, I do believe we have a soundbite with a state lawmaker here who is expressing his thoughts on this very issue. Let's listen to what he has to say, and then I'll say something on the other side. Take a listen.
Texas is known as a pro-death state, and I'm not proud of that. We want to make sure that nothing is left out of this trial, nothing that is left out in making sure that everything is placed on the table and considered before we carry out a death sentence to an innocent person.
Now, important to note, that lawmaker is a state Democrat in Texas who is pro-life, but he is not the only one. As you mentioned, there are several Republicans statewide that are also calling for clemency, calling for this stay of execution. As it stands right now, this is such a polarizing issue across the country. Here in Texas, of course, it is known to be a pro-death penalty, but this could very well start a larger conversation, Steph, on whether or not this needs to be re-examined. We know that the death penalty in general has fallen under intense scrutiny in neighboring Oklahoma after several inmates there had botched executions, and that caused the death penalty to be temporarily put on hold. So it remains to be seen what will be happening from a larger conversation standpoint here in Texas. But as for right now, that execution for Ms. Lucio is still set for next week. Steph?
It certainly sounds like the kind of case that can change things. Morgan Chesky, thank you.
Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. Follow today's top stories and breaking news by downloading the NBC News app.